I've been excited to spread this news for a while. Yeah, Phil is back, Phil Swanson, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about reconnecting and the news he delivered to me, and we'll have to go back until August, to August of it'll be a year coming up, 2025. Phil reached out to me after not not no bad terms. We haven't just lost touch with each other, which that seems to be our how our relationship's been over God. Thinking about it, I think I've known Phil since about 95, 96, and little history on that. But you're here for the news on the missing girl comic book. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. For those that don't know Phil Swanson, um, maybe a little education. Time to show off some of the collectibles. Probably a lot you haven't seen before. Phil's old bands. Because for those that don't know, Phil, first and foremost, probably is most known for Hour 13, Vestal Claret. Now, a lot of you people probably that are watching this video know of that. You're probably metalheads, doom heads. You're in the know with that stuff. But not too many know Phil's been dying for over a decade, and him and I talked to him about it since we've known each other. He's been dying to do a comic book, an underground comic book, and that's why we're here. That's why he got back in touch with me. He wanted to let me know that he was going full boat with the comic book that we talked about so long ago. So before we get into that, let's get if you don't know Phil Swanson, who the hell is Phil Swanson? Unless, like I said, you're probably an underground metal person. You knew of his bands. Well, Phil and I go back, like I said prior. I'm pretty sure I didn't even meet him. It was just like a chance. I was in a record store and I had come across this little newsletter. And I want to say this is like 95, 96, because some of the releases in here, like, what was it? Beyond Dawn and stuff like Sepultura. What was the Sepultura? No, At the Gate, Slaughter of the Soul. There's Sepultura in here. The releases he was covering from that time period. Anyway, yeah, I saw this. I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. It's got metal, it's got industrial, it's got goth music, everything that I was doing in my zine, Children of Cain. I had put an issue out before I met Phil. So I took this home, got in touch with Phil, and bang, we hit it off. That's when, I told him about my mag. Like I said, Mental Funeral, that came later. Children of Cain. So fast forward a little, we got to know each other and became really good friends, and definitely shared a lot of musical tastes, movies, big horror guys, cult movies, and then comic books too, and mainly underground stuff like Boneyard Press, like Dark Angel. Here, I'll show you stuff like this. Underground, crude, raw, satanic, serial killers, very sexual. Art might not be that great, but the stories were just downright evil and disgusting, and yeah, loved it. This is issue 2, and lo and behold, Kelly Jones. Anybody knows Kelly Jones? Went on to work for DC Sandman. that was the cover he did for 1991 issue of Dark Angel. Yeah, we hit it off, and I told him about my zine, and I was just putting out the second issue, and lo and behold, Phil was totally interested. He ends up being with the staff people, and yeah, he contributed. Let's see, Tesco V, Meatmen. It's one of Phil's contributions. What else did he do? Elysium with Goth Band, Dayglow Abortions, and Wyndham Hell, which you want to talk about a cult band, right? On Moribund. How many interviews did you see with them back in the day, right? So Phil did one for my zine. Anyway, so after that, Phil and I. He had a distribution in addition to that newsletter he was doing, Dislocator. He was just mainly CDs. He was doing. He was working with Relapse, getting all the latest, Osmos releases, and he wasn't working with Relapse. He was using as a distro to get his own stock in, and I actually partnered with him and helped him for a little bit with that. But Phil at that point had a family, and kind of that took over. So yeah, we kind of we stayed in touch, but he just didn't have time. He had two small kids at that point, so kind of we went our different ways. And then, God, I don't know, like 2005, all of a sudden, he's in this band, Upwards of Endtime, which is amazing. Just pure heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal kind of stuff. Fates Warning-esque, any of those, types like that. And I have to say, Phil was definitely beating everybody to the punch, because here's some promos he was sending me. This is early on. These, I don't know how many people really have. These were really like given to friends. I would say promos to maybe labels or magazines, but Phil knew I was always a big heavy metal guy, so always appreciated when he started something new. And when it came to limited stuff, he always hooked me up. Was always always one of the first people to receive stuff. So yeah, he. Heavy metal was kind of making a comeback. He was on I think he beat everybody to the punch by having this out, and kind of exploded. There was that period in I don't know, maybe 2005, for about maybe 5-6 years. A lot of just pure heavy metal bands popping up. So again, Phil was working on that. Some years go by. I think we were still talking and stuff. Probably, I don't know if I was Mental Funeral. Yeah, I probably reviewed some of this in my newer zine that came a little bit later, Mental Funeral. Reviewed that, stayed in touch with Phil, and then 2009 I started a label, NoVisible Scars, and he tells me, "Hey, I got this new project, Vestal Claret." So this was more up my alley. This is very limited. This is a ritual and rehearsal. This says 24 copies. I thought there was maybe 50 made, but anyway, this is again, more heavy metal, but doom was creeping in, and Upwards definitely was doom too, but this was hitting the notes, man. This was, Sabbathy and Candlemass, and then this satanic angle, so Phil was laying the groundwork. At that point, we talked about, he was going to do a new EP lost loved ones right here. And I'm like, hey, why don't I put it out? Well, you know, but hey, I'm doing a label that's focusing on like cassettes and vinyl and, you know, maybe some CDs here and there. But I want to go back, you know, and do things. So I came up with this concept of cassette tapes, you know, limited edition in a 7-inch, well, not in a 7-inch pack, you know, layouts. And yeah, Phil was into it. And I would do these limited edition tapes. Threw a patch and a pin in there, and then bang. Yeah, Phil was on board, you know, very supportive. I loved this project, always, you know, from the get-go. And again, it was weird how it was going. It was kind of really getting back into the roots of, you know, heavy metal and doom metal. And man, just the timing of it, perfect. So we did that. And then I continued to work with Phil. He did, he joined up with my buddy Ryan Adams. Ryan, that was in the death metal band Confarnum. They hit it off and they did a project Night Bitch. Again, this was a cassette release. Ryan does an awesome project now, Vestal Climax, so check that out. I'll put a link in the description. More, I'm going to go, you know, we're I could give a whole history lesson on, you know, Phil and I working together and releases, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to go real quick, you know, let's finish up and get to the actual news of the comic book. I did more Vestal Claret. This was with, split with Ungod. Go real quick through that. Yet another one, another Vestal Claret tape. Phil had the idea of covering, what were these, like Christian rock songs, 2 Christian rock songs, to make them, you know, a satanic heavy metal band covering these Christian, you know, metal songs, rock songs. That was another limited. These were all limited, guys. These don't even exist. This is like 10, 15 years ago when this all came out. You know, he did Earth Lord. That was a cool project he did with Connecticut heavy metal band from the late 70s, early 80s called Legend. That first album was very sought after. And then one of the last things I did, this BCAD, which is a crossover band Phil was doing with Simon from Vestal Claret. You know, they did originals, crossover, like punk metal stuff. It's very, very catchy, very good, very, you know. And then they did some covers, Black Flag, Warfare, Metal Anarchy. So, oh, and then of course there was Hour 13, which really him and Chad Davis doing this really put Phil and Chad on the map. You know, this is doom excellence, Merciful Fate, Judas Priest, just, you know, dark evil metal. You know, this is the first CD. So I pulled this out because what I'm about to show you has crossover appeal with the Hour 13 release and this Vestal Claret release. So hopefully that was a little education on if you're not familiar with Phil. Because I realize some people watching maybe we're intrigued by the title, you know, comic book, Missing Girl, you know, indie horror, you know, adult themed you know, for all you, well, hey, you know, we all like, you know, what am I looking for? The words, the risque, underground, raunchy, you know, triple X, comic books with sleaze and devil worship, right? So get ready, because I'm gonna be showing you. Well, I would. You'll have to pick up the comic. I can't show what I like on YouTube. So, but anyway, so hopefully, little education on Phil himself. You know, if you are into metal and you haven't heard, you know, these bands, check them out. I will link everything, even going back, way back, my old blogspot, which was Mental Funeral zine blogspot. I have interviews with Phil. I did some, you know, one that was given me that I didn't do, but Phil asked me to put up there. This was, you know, between probably 2009, 2011, somewhere around there. There's all kinds of photos I shot of Night Bitch. Ooh, yeah, no, we showed Night Bitch. Night Bitch, Hour 13. Lots of photos I took at shows that were, I don't know how widely seen. They've been up there for years, but you could read all that, look at all that. I'll link it in the description too. All right. So let's get to the reason we're here, or you're here, is Phil has started a comic book company. So Phil has started a comic book company called Cranial Core Comics. Go. And the first comic he's doing is called Missing Girl. And maybe that's ringing a bell with some of you. This is written by Phil, based on his concepts, presented in both his bands, Vestal Claret, as you'll notice, track 3, Missing Girl. And then also used for Hour 13. Last track here. Lyrically different, but same concept. Now, Phil and I have discussed he's gonna come up to Connecticut. He's gonna drop me off some more of these Treasury editions. We'll get to that in a minute. What the hell is a Treasury edition? And hold on a minute. So we will reconnect. He's going to come up here to Connecticut, where Phil is originally from, and we're going to hang out. And hopefully, we discussed that we're probably going to do some video taping here, and I'll have Phil better explain. I'm going to give a brief synopsis of the, you know, concept of Missing Girl, but Phil probably is the best person. Of course he is. It's his groundwork, you know, his concept to explain the, you know, the real overall message he's trying to convey. And, you know, we'll get into how it was used musically in his bands, Vestal Claret and Hour 13. But no more music. I'd love to talk music, but this is, you know, let's get to the comic book. All right, so Missing Girl. So let's go back to August. So this is amazing how fast this comic book came together. Now, Phil's had this concept, and he has a lot more up his sleeve if this does well. He didn't even have an artist yet. He just knew he wanted to do comic in August. And that just came out, I mean, it was done, I think, in November or December. He found an artist. He was going to go to a Comic-Con and look, and I believe he found who he found. I know his name is Geoffrey. Yeah, here we go. There we go. I will. He does have. You can check out his work. He's done other stuff. He's an indie guy. I'll link him too. I don't know much about him either. Phil will probably fill me in, and the viewers here too. So yeah, he didn't even have an artist yet. It was amazing. So to think, back in all, I mean, I mean, I knew this was going to happen. Here, let me show off some pages here while we're talking. And I'm gonna. Phil was nice enough to allow me to use some JPEG images that I'll sprinkle in here in a minute, amongst the pages I'm showing here. You get the really good concept of what the art looks like. I like it. I like the look and the feel of it. There's not much writing in it. It's done on purpose. This is what's considered a Treasury edition, and there's only 50 of these copies floating around. Most of them, they were going to go on sale, but Phil told me that they've all been scooped up by distros, and I'll list all of those. For even there's European distros too. So if you're in Europe, you maybe have a chance of getting them. He didn't think they were going to fly out of here this so soon. These are almost, as Phil said to me in an email, these are like a demo. He just put them out there, see what could happen. Hopefully gets picked up by a big company or an bigger indie company, or I think Phil is just going to go ahead and do it on his own like he did this. The real comic book, and I think there'll be more dialogue, etc. It's going to be a little bit different from this. If you end up with a copy of this, it's going to be out September, and I don't know how many copies. I'll link Phil's email, the Cranial email. You could reach out to him if you want. Maybe get on a waiting list. I'm not sure if he's doing that. Hopefully, I did present a problem for you, Phil, with that, saying that. But also, in addition to these 50, these are considered Treasury editions. Phil labeled them. There is an official bootleg that Phil authorized for South America. And I don't know the details too much on that. He said that I'll show a picture of he sent me something about that. I'll show it right here. I know that the idea was it's probably going to get bootlegged in Mexico, like a lot of stuff. So he sent it to record stores and certain other people, encouraging them to if they want to bootleg this. There was a package he sent authorizing him to do that. I guess the poor countries of Mexico and stuff like that. We'll get more from Phil on that. I'm sure he'll explain it better than I am right here. But that's the gist of it. So anyway, Missing Girl, what is it? What's the concept? How does it tie into these bands that Phil sang for? Well, Missing Girl is a 80s satanic panic, simply put. Do you remember that when cults were abducting so-called devil worshippers, and cults were abducting children for ritual abuse, sacrifice? So Phil brings that to light in this comic, and this female here, the missing girl. And we're introduced to a character. I would take it. This is there's no time or place, but let's go with the '80s. The kids got the cut off denim jacket. Um, Brings home some records and starts fantasizing about you know bloodlust and sexual deviancy. And he kidnaps a girl walking home, and and there's a ritual performed. So let's leave it at that. I can't really show that. This this is definitely adults, comic. So you know, Phil doesn't Phil definitely is not for the sensitive, and this writing and the art is not for you if you're sensitive. So with that said, I am super lucky that Phil entrusted me amongst a couple other chosen few to you know be the first to take a look at this, and I am totally blown away. It's just amazing that everything comes full circle. Comic books were always one of my first loves, if not the first love of mine, and you know, like a lot of our passions and our hobbies, we leave them alone, come back. I'm back in the comic book thing. I'm actually vending, and my collection's massive. I'm selling at show. I always thought I always wanted to, but Phil had reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like you to be an editor, just helping me see this through." I was like, "Dude, yeah, hell yeah, man, I'm honored." So there you go. Quick little overview on this. Hopefully you're intrigued. Even if you're not a comic person, I mean, this is if you know Phil's bands, and especially Vestal Claret and Hour 13. They're steep in the occult, Satanism, blah blah blah. Even if you're not a comic person, this is his lyrics brought to life, man. It's really cool. Very, 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 very happy to see it. Give it a shot, even if you're not. It's a heavy metal comic book, man. But an RX rate, X rating. So there you go. A lot more information in the description. Like I said, hopefully I'll get Phil on. We definitely have plans for March. It's coming up soon. I will have as far as I know, I have 10 copies coming of this. I have a comic book show coming. Might even get Phil to sign a couple if he's willing. So I'll link the description in the description, and at the end of this video, I will have a flyer for the show I'm doing, ShoreCon in Guilford, Connecticut, towards the end of March. If you're into comic books or into Phil, come on out. I'll have some. As far as I know, Phil said I asked to have some, and Phil said I definitely have them coming. So there you go. Probably not too many in the U.S. So if you want it, come on out. If I have some left over, we'll go from there. You could hit me up. We'll figure it out. Okay. Anyway, seriously, thank you for watching this. Excited to be part of a comic book. I never it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm excited for Phil. That's about it. I will talk to you soon.